Part of the process of the YDC is to read 30 different books after you're done it and write book reports on them. And these aren't the traditional academic book reports we would have written in school. They're reflections. They're, what did I get out of this book? What did I learn about myself from this book? And there are 3 books that I've read in my book report process that have absolutely blown my mind apart. One of them was Radha Diary of a Woman's Search, Swami Radha's memoir of her time in India. The other was In Durga's Embrace. And the third one will be available in January, and that's Carried by a Promise. You can read snippets of that book online at www.radhananda.org. I repeat, www.radhananda.org. But these 3 books, they just totally blew my mind away. And it was because of the amount of devotion that these 3 women were able to show. And I wish she was here tonight because I'm going to talk about Swami Durgananda behind her back. Satsang is my favorite activity of the day. And every part of Satsang is my favorite part of Satsang. But my most favorite part of Satsang is when Swami Durgananda, she's 80 somewhere, she comes up at the end of Satsang and she pranams in front of this picture here of Swami Radha. And it just makes my heart glow whenever I watch her do that. The story that I tell myself is that she is there in such devotion and gratitude, saying, thank you so much for everything that you've given me. Thank you for giving me my life. I will do anything for you. And that's powerful. Every night I watch her do that. Like, wow, do I have the ability to do that? I go up every night and I bow to the same picture. And I have a lot of respect and reverence for her. But I don't have that level of devotion for her yet. And so that's caused me to ask the question, to whom or what am I devoted? I started off with opening up what devotion means to me. And I looked at where devotion has been in my life and where devotion has been in the lives of people that I've known. And, you know, in today's modern world, a lot of people are devoted to their career. They're devoted to money. They're devoted to a person. They're devoted to their ideas. They're devoted to sex, to rock stars, to movies. And I began to explore about addiction. And when I was deep in my addiction, I found that I was absolutely devoted to my drug of choice. I would do absolutely anything for it. So I know I've got the power to be devoted. But it just doesn't seem to be the same. In my addiction, I was devoted to something else that wasn't by my choice, and it wasn't to something life-giving. And as I explored deeper, I found out that devotion for me is very willfully giving myself over to something that is life-giving. One of the really cool things about this place is that we're not told what we need to be devoted to. We're not told that we need to be devoted to this image or that image. We get to choose for ourselves. And throughout this entire ashram, there are images all over the place. And they're from all different traditions. Ascent magazine, the magazine that the ashram put out until just a couple of years ago, issue number 10 was on devotion. And Swami Radhananda writes this about devotion. Devotion will be different for each person and must be experienced to be truly understood. I've had difficulty writing this article on devotion because the language of the heart is beyond words. I have seen glimpses of her in my life, and this experience generates a desire to worship, a desire to listen, and to look for her. Yet how do we recognize the divine when it is such a personal experience, so intertwined with the everyday, with speech, action, eating, drinking, sleeping, pleasure? The intention of devotion is like following a thin, bright line of awareness that weaves through our lives. The more we concentrate on those vibrations, the more we can step out of ourselves and gain a broader view. There is less self-interest and more curiosity about what a situation is bringing to us. Then we notice how life begins to flow. Devotion brings events and actions to life. Otherwise, work, practices, and life have a mechanicalness and dullness. And then she goes on to say, the secret of devotion is to find what focuses your mind and keeps it intrigued, real, engaged, and involved. It is very hard to keep the mind on something that doesn't appeal to you. For some people, the divine is real as their best friend, and they can imagine a very distinct image. For others, she is the breath, and for some, she is as subtle as the light. That is why within spiritual teachings, we have so many options and methods for connecting with the divine. So that told me a little bit about what devotion was, but I needed to explore for myself what was I devoted to. And so last weekend I put myself in the petri dish of my body and I conducted a little experiment. I worked through Swami Lalitananda's book, The Inner Life of Asanas, the section on devotion, and I figured out what I could learn about myself. And so over the course of 2 days, I would hold 5 different poses whenever I had the chance. They were cow face, mountain, tree, little bridge, and peacock feather. And here are some of the things that Swami Lalitananda has to say about devotion, and some of the things that started off my little experiment. Many great saints, both Eastern and Westerns, have attained liberation through their devotion and love for the divine. In the yoga tradition, bhakti is the path of devotion. I think of it as the path of the heart, juicy and full of the ripeness of love, rather than dry and debatable like the philosophies that exercise the intellect. Through devotional practices, we can direct our passion to the divine and transform the fires of emotion into finer feelings of intense love and gratitude. Hidden language Hatha Yoga gives us the opportunity to practice reverence for all life. We can move out of our self-centered human perspective and open up to other perceptions, asking, what can I learn from the tree, or the mountain, or from the birds, or the fish, or the insects, the mammals, the plants with whom I share this earth in an intricate interdependence. In this willingness to acknowledge our brother and sister creations, we can give access to their hidden knowledge and open up to understanding, appreciating that unity. So I'll tell you a few of the things that I came up with through watching myself over the weekend. I found out that for me that devotion is about just being and cooperating with my evolution. It's about understanding that everything animate and inanimate is linked. And the tree was a really big one for me. It was about pulling my roots out of the earth and putting them into myself. And by putting them in myself, I put them into the divine. It was about letting knowledge and wisdom arise from within and on their own time, and accepting myself exactly where I am. So I'm one of those unfortunate people that doesn't really connect with any of the gods or the goddesses, and I don't have this real tangible image of the divine. My image of the divine is Divine Gordy, and that's the divinity that's in me. And as we were reciting the mantra this evening, I did my favorite thing while I'm reciting the mantra up front here, and I opened my eyes and I looked at all of you. And I saw in each one of you the same divinity that's in myself. And so I'm devoted to myself. It seems really selfish to me sometimes. And I really had a hard time thinking about talking about this tonight and sharing this little piece that I'm so centered, devoting myself to me. And I was doing a little bit of writing on the course description for meditation, healing, and light. And I found this little nugget of wisdom from Swami Radha. Yoga is very fortunately a process of clarification, and the human tendency of self-centeredness, properly applied, can produce marvelous results and lead on the path of continuous blessings. So I felt a little bit better about being devoted to myself after reading that. And I felt okay with sharing it to you. And then in my own hatha practice that I did just before lunch today, what popped up for me is about that proper application and the fine line between self-importance and self-gratification, or hedonism, and devotion to the divine within me. And since it's her ashram, I'm going to leave you with the last words from Swami Radhananda. The ways to keep your focus on the divine. A few little bullet points here. Silently repeating a mantra or a prayer. Keeping your image of the divine close. Watching your breath in intense moments. Looking for the light in another person. Remembering the surprises and the connections in the day. Remembering the positive and the victories of change. Chanting, offering your emotions back to the divine. And creating an image through paint, color, clay, or etc. Namaste.